Sometimes radio voices impart impactful messages. Recently, I heard a female voice speak about meds in a conversation focused on healthy living, where M stands for meditation, E for exercise, D for diet, and S for sleep. Perhaps ever conscious of my personal need to achieve a healthier lifestyle, almost effortlessly, I have remembered the acronym MEDS. One of the most prevalent pastoral issues in 2025 is that of burnout. Once confined as a problem to the workplace, burnout now permeates various facets of modern life, from digital overload and social pressures to existential anxieties intensified by global uncertainties. I heard one commentator recently argue that today we wear busyness like a badge of honor. We fill every gap in our calendars. We check emails while waiting in line. We listen with half an ear while composing mental to-do lists. We are distracted, constantly doing, rarely being. This weekend's Gospel from Luke is the short but unforgettable story of Mary and Martha, where Jesus visits their home, and we witness the contrast between Martha, who is busy with many tasks, and Mary, who sits at the Lord's feet listening. For theologian Elizabeth Johnson, Mary's choice to sit at Jesus' feet, something reserved for male disciples, was radical and countercultural. She writes, Mary assumes the posture of a disciple, breaking the boundaries of traditional females' roles in the first century Jewish home. Sister Joan Chichester writes, Mary is not rejecting service, she is claiming voice. She is refusing to be relegated to silence. South American theologian Ada Maria Isaiah Diaz adds, Martha's labor is sacred. Mary's learning is sacred. The division is artificial, born not of theology but of patriarchy. Others argue that Martha isn't merely prepping in the kitchen, but exercising leadership. Mary isn't idle, she's immersed in discipleship. Both are active, but Mary's posture is a healthier spiritual orientation. Emily Raymer Barry develops this thought and argues that Martha represents burnout in service. Mary shows the need to stay grounded in listening to Jesus to sustain ministry. Leading psychologists emphasize that burnout is more than just fatigue. It's a complex syndrome characterized by emotional exhaustion, cynicism, and diminished personal accomplishment. Dr. Linda Martinez, author of The Modern Mind at Risk, notes in 2025, burnout has evolved alongside technology. Constant connectivity blurs boundaries between work and rest, leading to chronic stress that the brain struggles to recover from. Popular writer Eckhart Tolle teaches burnout is a signal that we have lost touch with the present moment and our deeper self. The mind is overwhelmed by doing rather than being. True recovery comes from embracing stillness and presence. Fascinatingly, spiritual writer Richard Rohr argues that contemplation is a long, loving look at the real. It's a posture of the heart that relinquishes control and allows God to be God in us. For Rohr, contemplation, rightly understood, fuels radical engagement with the world, arguing that we need both action and contemplation to be whole, to be holy. Rohr stresses that action without contemplation can become ego-driven and ultimately self-defeating. If your action is not grounded in God, it becomes reaction. Conversely, contemplation without action can become narcissistic, detached from the sufferings of the world. Thomas Merton calls action the stream and contemplation the spring. Our first reading from the book of Genesis this weekend presents Abraham as offering radical hospitality to the stranger. It emphasizes Sarah, his wife, as a quiet partner whose faith and contribution are not always center stage, but are nevertheless indispensable. The message is that we meet God, not only in prayer and ritual, but in how we treat others, especially the outsider, the traveler, the one in need. Rabbi Jonathan Sacks wrote about this reading. Faith is not only obeying God, it's about imitating God, who clothes the naked, feeds the hungry, and cares for the stranger. Paul, in the second reading to the Colossians, stressed that Jesus is not just a historical figure or a wise teacher. He is the very heart of God's love. When we look at Christ, we see God's mercy, compassion, and faithfulness fully revealed. Sociologists emphasize that burnout is not just an individual ailment, but a social phenomenon reflecting broader systemic issues. Social media, while connecting people, also fuels comparison and anxiety. Burnout requires both individual care and societal transformation. Rohr is convinced that it is in the inner gaze of love and the outer hands of service that transformation occurs. Eckhart puts it like this: what we plant in the soil of contemplation, we shall reap in the harvest of action. Burnout is a mirror reflecting our collective values and structures. To address burnout, we need psychological interventions, spiritual practices, and sociological reforms. Prayer is not a private escape, but as Rohr says, a spacious place where God can get at us and where our deepest identity is formed. Meds today and tomorrow. Amen.